Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. High Noon is a 1952 American Western film that was produced by Stanley Kramer from a screenplay by Carl Foreman. The film was directed by Fred Zinnemann, and it stars Gary Cooper and Grace Kelly. The storyline goes that former Marshal Will Kane, played by Gary Cooper, is preparing to leave the small town of Hadleyville, New Mexico, with his new bride, Amy, played by Grace Kelly, until he learns that local criminal Frank Miller has been set free and is coming to seek revenge on the marshal. When he starts recruiting deputies to fight Miller, Kane is discouraged to find that the people of the town turn cowardly when the time comes for a showdown, and he ends up having to face Miller and his cronies alone. The movie, which is one of the greatest westerns of the 1950s, has very little action in it, and a hero who is admittedly afraid, with townspeople who are too chicken to defend themselves. In other words, High Noon wasn't exactly your typical Western film, but deviating from the normal Western formula may have contributed to its success. But so did Gary Cooper's amazing performance in the lead role, along with the director's tight direction and Carl Foreman's tense screenplay. All of these things rolled into one made this one of the best Westerns ever made. Now, the origins of the movie are strongly debated. It sounds pretty straightforward at the beginning. High Noon was written by Carl Foreman, based on a story by John Cunningham that was called The Tin Star. But if you listen to Foreman, it wasn't that simple. Foreman said he came up with the idea for the film himself, and he wrote a 4-page plot outline for it. Then he discovered that it bore some real similarities to The Tin Star. To avoid any problems, he bought the film rights to the short story, hence the official based on credit. There was a lot of talk at the time about this being a political film, but the director didn't feel like it was done that way. He saw it basically as a great movie story, full of enormously interesting people. If you look closely, you vaguely can sense deeper meanings in the film. But it wasn't until later on that he realized that it wasn't your typical regular Western myth. He felt like it was just a story about a man who must make a decision according to his conscience, and that politics never came into play in the film. When Foreman wrote this, he was interested in telling a motion picture story in exactly the time that it required for the events to take place in the story itself. And by the way, the movie is 84 minutes long, but it covers about 100 minutes of time. The many clocks that you see in the film on the walls must move a little bit faster than the real ones do. While a lot of movies were being made in color in 1952, the majority were still in black and white. The director tried color, but he didn't like the way it looked after just a few scenes. The producer agreed with him, and so they started all over again and did the shoot in black and white. As it turned out, doing it in black and white, the smoggy skies of LA appear stark white on film, providing a really nice contrast to Will Kane's black clothes. Gary Cooper does an amazing job convincing you that he's a troubled guy. You can see the anguish on his face. But what you really need to realize is the 51-year-old actor was pretty uncomfortable during the shoot. He had stomach ulcers and back problems that were plaguing him the entire time. And he was particularly distressed the day that they shot the wedding scene, where he had to pick up Grace Kelly. His personal life was also a complete mess. He had recently separated from his wife, and his very public affair with Patricia Neal was coming to an end. There is no wonder that he looked so weary and haggard in this role. The producer ended up casting Grace Kelly after just seeing her in a picture. The 21-year-old was cast to play Will Kane's bride, Amy, without even an audition or a meeting. When it was all said and done, the producer had second thoughts about it. He felt like she was miscast, and she appeared just too young for Cooper. Now, there was a whole lot of fooling around going on the set. Though it only lasted for 4 weeks, the shoot was full of romantic encounters between its cast. Cooper and Kelly had an affair, which Cooper had to keep secret from his girlfriend, Patricia Neal. Kelly also bedded down with the director, and the screenwriter ended up having an affair with the supporting actress, Katie Girardeau. And those are just the ones that we know about. Who knows what the whole truth is? Grace Kelly grew up in a very wealthy family. As she got a little older and got through her teenage years, she became too much to handle. Her parents decided to change direction and send her away to a women's-only school in New York to straighten her up. They thought that taking boys out of her life and surrounding her with only girls would cause her to focus more on her studies. Despite her parents' best intentions, Kelly didn't walk away from the women's-only institution a changed woman. In fact, she tended to act out more while she was there. It's said that she would continually dance in the middle of the hall with no clothes on. All this done in front of her roommates. In the early 50s, Grace Kelly and John F. Kennedy ended up hooking up. Their fathers were both self-made Irish-American millionaires that were friends. So Kelly and Kennedy had socialized even before they were famous in their own right. It's said that they began a romance that became so intense that marriage was discussed. However, Kennedy's father put a stop to any kind of rumors because he didn't want his son's political career damaged by being married to an actress. In 1954, Kennedy, now married to Jackie, found himself recovering from back surgery in the hospital. To cheer up her husband, Jackie, who was completely unaware of their previous relationship, allowed Kelly to visit Kennedy in the hospital. Kelly arrived dressed as a nurse, and according to one of the gossip columnists at the time, when she left there, Kennedy was a very happy man. So much so that it makes Marilyn Monroe's Happy Birthday rendition seem rather PG by all accounts. Take a look back at this fantastic film. You can't go wrong. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.